Right, if you don't mind, I'm going to take my mask off. And it's a great pleasure to welcome everyone who is able to come along here today. I know that at least you didn't have to battle the weather, although battling the traffic and Omicron can be quite daunting. And to all those people watching from far away on the other side of the camera, very glad that you're able to be with us too. And it's very sad for all of us to have to say goodbye to Ruth. She had a long, long struggle, 3 years on chemo and the ability to cope with the most terrible sort of sentence. And I'm very glad that everyone who's been able to is able to be here. This event is simply to have a physical presence as Ruth leaves us. We had hoped for a service on the 16th, which would have been last Sunday, but sadly I was told by Lancet Laboratories on the 7th of January that I was COVID positive and had to go into self-quarantine for 10 days. And luckily I was able to contact Thomas and Helen before they left Canada, and the decision was made that we would postpone the service. They will be having a full service in a garden, being sensitive to COVID, particularly in terms of the demographic of people who knew Ruth. Their garden service, and as soon as they can confirm that, I will let everyone know. That will be a formal service, and Rabbi Margolis will preside over that. Ruth and I were married for over 42 years, and it was a very close marriage. We essentially, as we often joked, were almost conjoined at the hip, and so we spent a huge amount of time in each other's company. I first met Ruth in 1973 when we both worked at the City Library's branch headquarters, and we worked with James Winter, who would later become a lifelong friend, and Hilary Jaffet, who was a very close friend of Marlis, who was Ruth's cousin. And we didn't meet again then until 1979, when we both worked at the art library. I was at an extremely low ebb at that point, and Ruth was planning her first major solo exhibition at the Lichee Gallery, and she co-opted me to help her with the planning, the setting up, and everything. I was with her choosing frames and all of that. And one thing, to the objection of many members of 1979, we suffered a very major setback when our son Simon was born in 1982, in that he developed hypsarrhythmia, which is called infantile spasms. It's a form of epilepsy with multiple convulsions, which can and did cause huge brain damage. And today it's far better controlled, but at that time there was very little that could be done. And that changed all our plans for our futures, because we had hoped to live quietly with our children and focusing around our interest in the visual arts. But Simon's illness was so devastating that we had to make the choice of either having him institutionalized, which was quite unacceptable to either of us, or looking after him for as long as we were able to do so. We were concerned that when he reached a certain age, reached puberty, given my height as compared to Ruth's, he might become unmanageable, and we might have to see to his going to Selwyn Siegel, whatever it might have been. As it was, that didn't happen, because he later developed Kawasaki virus, which caused a fungal infection of his lungs. The fungus began to build up. He was increasingly short of breath, surrounded by oxygen cylinders, and eventually, the inevitable, he passed on. Ruth first encountered the emperor of maladies, in other words, cancer, in 2007, and she self-diagnosed, very luckily, went to a radiologist, had a mammogram 3 weeks after her previous clear mammogram. He took a biopsy and she was immediately sent to specialist Dr. Carol Ben, double mastectomy. She had very aggressive chemotherapy under Dr. Devin Moodley at the Donald Gordon Clinic's oncology unit. And because of the very early intervention, it was extremely successful. And she lived for this 10 years of wonderful remission. And during that time, she threw herself into her, Ruth had a spinal operation, which was not necessarily very successful. And that was followed by a superbug, which in the ward after operation. She spent a month in a rehab facility, huge commitment and determination. And after 5 weeks or so, metastasized cancer, a bone cancer, referred back to Dr. Moodley at the Donald Gordon, and then has spent 3 years of relatively uninterrupted chemotherapy and hormone therapy. And again, in spite of everything that was thrown at her, she was always able to bounce back, always able to maintain, responsible for picking up her sepsis in time and her subsequent admission to the Rosebank Clinic. But in all of this, apart from the wonderful medical support, Helen was always with us, always able to see that groceries were delivered every month. If our fridge broke down, she bought us a new fridge. If our stove broke down, she did the same. And she was just a rock that we could depend on to see us through these very painful 3 years. And we can only thank all of them. The format for the remaining part of the service will be that Pauline Hanna, a long-time friend of Ruth's from the mid-1980s, who offered Ruth huge support in caring for Simon in his worst weeks and months, who also with Avril Mashett cared for Ruth's father Morris when he was in hospice, and who clicked so well with Ruth that friendship has lasted throughout until today. So Pauline will say a few things about her friendship with Ruth, and after that everything will be handed over to Rabbi Julia Margolis, who will say whatever she chooses to do, to provide some comfort, to provide some closure as we say goodbye to Ruth. And I'm going to hand you over now to Pauline.
Can you hear me? I met Ruth somewhere around about 1984, and at that time she was pushing Simon in his pushchair, and she had a 2-year-old daughter in the other hand, and all the baggage underneath the baby on the pushchair. and she was coming to see her mother and father, who lived in Cyrildene on Friedland Avenue, and that's where I met her. I was working for hospice, and I was allocated Simon as my patient. I'm not going to talk much about the sad side of things. I'm going to talk about the happy side of things, because Ruth was Mother Earth. She was a nurturer. She nurtured her husband, her family, her children, her dog, the garden, and her mission in life was to make other people happy. So she would nurture and love and support everybody she knew. But behind this person was a very talented lady, highly intelligent and very funny. And in those early days when I joined hospice, I wasn't very familiar with the Jewish faith. So I used to ask her lots of questions, and we used to talk about it a lot, because I'm an Anglican, so I'm on the other side of the fence. But it's amazing how the two religions are intertwined always. They never have been separated from each other. So Ruth was a good friend. She was a giver, a supporter, and a loving friend. And I'm going to miss her, but on the other hand, after all the suffering that she endured, I think now she's safe in God's hands, and may she rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this service. And now that I heard Jonathan and Pauline, I decided to read something else to add more into this service, because I think, and I hope that you will agree with me, that this poem will be very much appropriate as we talk about Ruth. And in this time of grief, when we listen to the voice of sacred scriptures, and you mentioned that Judaism and Christianity and maybe the Anglican Church, they always were connected, and it brings the message of God closer to all of us. In the end of the day, I believe that we all children of God, and we all have the divine in us. And our relationship talks about us and the Creator, and in light and in the darkness, in joy and in sorrow, in life as in death. And death, physical death, has taken Ruth from us. And a world became, for her family, for her friends, for you, for us, a darker place. And may we all find the presence of loving friends and family, and may God always be with them. מיגור באוהליך, משכון בהר קודשך, הולך תמים, ופועל צדק, ודובר אמת בלבבו. לא רגע לשונו, לא אסר לרעהו רע, וחרפה לא נשא על קרבו. From Psalm 16. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your food give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going, coming, now and forever. From Psalm 121. And I'm sure in a later stage when Helen is going to come here and more people will be able to join us, may it be online or in person, I'm sure that many more will be talking about Ruth, but I just printed only some of the messages that were sent, and they all, and when I read through them, is that they all speak about the most wonderful woman that loved and cared for her family so much, and what a huge loss it is for many, many people. But there is one specific message that I wanted to share with you, because I think, Jonathan, we can all feel the beautiful love that you have with Ruth. And it's written here, I can't say how much I feel for you losing your best friend, your life's companion, your partner in crime, your lover and your soulmate. May your journey be filled with loving memories, and I hope that your sadness will numb. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says that for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, time to keep and a time to discard it, time to keep silence and a time to speak. And I wanted also to read some parts of beautiful poems and songs that I know Ruth loved very much. And when you sent it to me, I thought that it's just absolutely beautiful readings. So from Remembering by Andrea Bocelli, I hear your song, my sister and my brother. It fills my heart. It's with me everywhere. I won't forget. I'll promise to each other. I will remember I'm here, for you were there. I will be there. I'll stand with you forever. I will be there. You'll never be alone. And we will share our dream of peace together until the morning comes and we are finally home. I pray you'll be our eyes and watch us wherever we go and help us to be wise in times we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace to a place where we'll be safe. And Helen asked me to include this poem by Vita West. It's called The Land. She walks in the loveliness she made. between the apple blossom and the water. She walks among the patterned pie brocade, each flower her son, and every tree her daughter. May God forever remember Ruth, who has gone to her eternal rest. May she be at one with the one whose life eternal. And may the beauty of her life shine forevermore. And may our lives always bring honor to her memory. Adonai me'agur bo alecha, mishkon be'ar kodshecha. God, who may abide in your house and who may dwell in your holy mountain. Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others and who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. From Psalm 15. And according to the Jewish teachings, I'm sure that you're all familiar with this really beautiful, exquisite poem, Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor. And we know that it was written by King Solomon as a part of the book of Proverbs, and a book of great wisdom. And I wanted to read it in Ruth's honor. אשת חיל מאמצע ורחוק מפנים מכרע ובטח בלב בעלה ושלל לא יחסר. A woman of valor who can find. She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done brilliantly, but you excel them all. From Proverbs 31. And as we concluding this part of tribute to Ruth and the service, I want to offer a prayer of thanks. Eternal God, we give thanks for the gift of Ruth's life, a wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us that filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustain us. For all this and more, we offer thanks. And would you please rise? יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חיותה וימליך מלכותה, בחי חון ובימחון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהיה שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה ברכו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עשה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say Amen. Thank you. And this concludes this part of our service for today.